All right, everybody. Yeah. It's the Jerry Metcalf podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. Today, we have Jim Miller from the Jamison Sothebys International Realty office. He manages the office in Chicago with 250 agents selling over $1 billion a year. Before this, he was a real estate agent producing over $40 million a year. So we're going to get a great perspective on how to be a successful real estate agent from his personal experience and some real insight from what he's seen over the years coaching this office to really incredible success. So on that, thank you for being here, Jim. Good to have you.
It's thrilled to be here, Jerry. I'm obsessed with your podcast. We've only really been talking now for a couple of weeks and listened to several of your interviews, and I think they're so spot on. And I know that your audience is going to get a lot of value out of them, and I know I have so far.
Well, that's an honor to hear from you because we're going to talk about the coaching that you do in your office because it's really something special. Mackenzie Casey introduced us, who is a top real estate agent in your office, and she attributes all of her success to your training methods. So I'm excited to hear about it. On that, though, tell us about yourself and how you got in the business in the first place.
Yeah, and Mackenzie is terrific, and she's actually out at Live Sotheby's right now, and she's very instrumental in helping me find this coaching kind of interest that I've got. But where it really started, Jerry, was I had my real estate heart attack in 2007. And like many, right, when the credit market seized, I was almost all development. 80 or 90% of my business at that time was in development. And in about 90 days, I had 7 figures in commissions that evaporated.
Wow.
And because lenders started pulling loans and construction loans, and my business basically came to a complete and utter halt. So after doing one deal in 8 months, I woke up in February of 2008 with tears on my pillow and adrenaline rushing through my veins. Again, about 3:30 in the morning, and I knew at that point in time it was my aha moment. I had to make a decision whether or not I was going to stay in the business. At that point in time, no one was hiring for any other sales position, so I knew I had to make a go of it. So I had a conversation with someone in the business that I really respect, and he said, "What are you doing with your SOI?" Mm-hmm. And I had no idea what that meant at the time. I didn't tell him that, but as you guys know, SOI is sphere of influence. Right. And I really had to dig deep after that conversation, and I found my best friend Google and started searching for content. And that's really, Jerry, where it all started. I got into major self-development. I'm 100% self-taught. And when I started seeing serious success in my business, I doubled my business 4 times in 5 years based on a referral-based business because a transactional type business did not work for me. I found that out the hard way in August of 2007. And that's where the training kind of came from. It's a story of my my fight to get back to prominence, I guess. So
wow.
That's where it started. And since after 2007, it's become a passion of mine to help other agents avoid what happened to me in August of 2007.
That's huge. And I think you've basically created a course out of this and taught it 28 times. And you've grown. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, and you've grown your office that you're in now. You've grown them to $1 billion for 250 agents, which is huge. And you maintain that $1 billion production, and you're growing. So that's just a huge testament to what you're doing and what's involved in this. And you've got, but in this, well, I say that. Let's talk about. I want to ask you a lot because I know a little bit too much about the course because I'm so interested in it. But I'd love to just get some mindset, just get to know you for a minute, and then we'll dig into some of these concepts that you're teaching. But tell us, you came in the business, you became, you were a very successful broker, and then the recession hit like it did so many of us, and you really came out thriving from it. What was the difference between you and the before and the you and the after? of that, of you were successful before and after, but you're successful after with a whole new set of circumstances. What was the difference, or what did you have to, what was kind of the one thing, or is there one that you figured out to come out of that?
And that's very easy. There was one, before 2007, I was transactional, right? It was all about getting the deal closed and getting my commission, and I was on to the next deal. And that, it's not in my DNA to be that way, but I don't know. I think business sometimes takes us down that path kind of through osmosis and seeing what other people do. But what I found out by doing that search on Google, Jerry, was that that's not how the giants in the business really get their businesses to where they're at. It's all based on referrals and taking care of your clients and giving them that extra level of service that they need and require on a daily basis to not just use you again in the future, but then sell your business to other people in the market.
Exactly.
And when I figured out, my business just took off.
That's huge that you say that, because just as on that topic, I find so many agents who haven't made their success yet are asking, which lead generation tools should I use, Zillow or Realtor.com or whatever internet lead feeder. And I always say the value of the relationships you have right under your nose, right in front of you, are so much more than you could ever pay Zillow for. I don't know if
in fact, they're 9 times more profitable to market to your past clients than to do front-end lead generation.
Do any lead generation and Zillow is a great tool, but it's a great tool only for certain things, and not lead generation, because you've already got, all you've got to do is go to the coffee shop and you'll get better lead sources than you do. And Zillow, I love you. It's not that. Paying Zillow to be their data center is not. It's just, that's not what it's for. That's not the best use of Zillow. So I love that you say that. So on that, I want to go ahead and dig into something that we don't talk much about, or we do, but not this deep on the show. And we got into this a little bit before the conversation, but in sales, I think there's, okay, what do I do it? How do I do it? What is this? What is that? But then there's the part of, it all starts with me. Like, all of my success starts with me and my actions and what I do. And I find that a big part of what you're talking about in your training program. And one of those are in what you call your module 3 that I want to just go ahead and dig deep, because I find it fascinating. And one was, you talk about the 4 types of people. Tell us a little bit about what that means, what that is. Are we talking about ourselves or our clients, or what are the 4 types of people?
Well, and I got to give Darren Hardy credit for this, because this comes out of his some of his material. But you've got 4 types of people, essentially. You've got the unengaged, which, the people that get up, they go to work, they get their paycheck every 2 weeks, they move from job to job. They're kind of unengaged in the advancement of their career. They're happy with the status quo, right? Then you've got the over-motivated underachiever. This is the person that goes to, every motivational speaker that they can go to, right? And then they get home and they never take the plastic off the CD. Or the material. They're super, they're over-motivated, they're hyped up on motivation, but they never do anything with it, right?
They just enjoy the buzz of the motivation. Yeah. Yeah,
right. And there's so many people that fall into that category. They think that just being at those events or reading a certain book is going to, through osmosis, they're just going to be more productive, and then you've got the over-motivated overachiever, Jerry, which is that person that literally is so overmotivated, they're an overachiever, and they never step back and say, man, I forgot to live, right? Forgot to enjoy my life along the way. And I think there's many of those of us in real estate that are very successful, but they've never put systems and processes in place to help take the pressure off of the business, right? They do feel like they've got to control everything, and they can only get to a certain level, and they crash and burn. And then the one we all strive for, Jerry, is a stunningly successful super achiever. And I know that you're kind of, you wanted me to go into that one in a little bit more.
I love the use of the word, the stunningly successful. That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's the people, Jerry, they employ positive rituals and habits into their day, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm a morning ritual guy. I'm up at 4:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I have got more done by 6:30 when my kids wake up. So the rest of the day I just execute, right? So that's a habit and that's a ritual that I do. And I'm not saying that you got to get up at 4:30 in the morning, but give yourself maybe an extra hour off of what you're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But there's intentional habits and rituals in one's day that they use to advance themselves, right? And that's really where the heavy lifting takes place, is when you've got that me time. They also, a stunningly successful super achiever also looks at time as a commodity, right? You got 2,200 hours a year.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do with them? Are you going to waste them? Are you going to be efficient? Are you going to do what it's going to take to move your business forward? Or because once that time is gone, it's gone. You're not getting it back. You can't earn back. And that's why the Ubers of the world, and that's why the companies like that, they sell time, right?
Yes.
I don't have to. Car pulls up in front of my house, it picks me up and save me 15 minutes.
Exactly,
So
and a lot of hassle and stress, and
and a lot of hassle, right? Stress.
So,
they're consistent.
Yeah. Well, here's the question for you. You've got 4 types of people. Most people are probably the unengaged. Go to work, show up, or everybody be an entrepreneur. And not that everybody who has a job is an unengaged person. I don't want to be misunderstood on that. But, and there's plenty of real estate agents who are also in that category. So my question to you is, I'm sure you get people in your class that aren't all the 4th type of person. You get your unengaged. How do you identify which one am I? How do you get people to be honest with themselves? And how do you get people to step out of whatever type they are, if they can admit it to themselves, and become that number 4? What's your advice on that? Or how do you handle, I ask you that, how do you handle that in a course, to say, how do we really reflect and look at ourselves and figure out who we really are, to be honest with ourselves, to get to that level we're really aiming for?
Right. And I don't deal honestly with a lot of unengaged. I think most of the agents that I have are, most of them are overmotivated underachievers, or overmotivated overachievers, mm-hmm. meaning they want it. There's very few people that don't want it.
Right.
At least my firm. It's just, a lot of it comes down to, a lot of times they just don't know how to do it. They've never been taught. And that was me pre-2007. I'm still bitter to this day that I didn't have a better options in my brokerage at the time to learn these simple things like mm-hmm. spheres of influence, right? So exactly. That's why I'm really on this coaching class, is because it's a passion project for me. I don't want anybody to have to go through the lack of knowledge that I painfully found out in 2007. And then I've got agents, honestly, too, that worked so hard. They worked at 80 or 90 hours a week, and I have to dial them back a little and have them be more efficient with their time mm-hmm. and work that's stunningly successful. So a lot of it is having those conversations individually with those agents, so they can identify what person they are and make changes in those categories to get to be a stunningly successful super achiever, which kind of have people that have things figured out. They got time. They know time is a commodity. They're consistent. They got habits and rituals. They're focused on their personal, financial, professional goals. Those are the people that really become the giants in the business.
Exactly. I love, which goes through all, you've got 7 modules. So I'm going to bounce around a little bit, and I would go back to you, and then maybe we'll jump back into this course, because it'll help us understand better who you are. I love asking this question of everybody to see. Well, I love all my questions. I think everybody who listens knows this, but the answers get better. In this competitive industry that we're in, you've got everybody. When you become a real estate agent, you think all your friends are going to use you, and then you find out all of a sudden it seems like everybody's a real estate agent. What do you find is the common denominator of what makes the more successful real estate agents stand out above the competition? And or tell us, what did it for you, or what do you find as a common denominator of the agents that you work with now?
Well, I think that, again, I think the agents that stick out are the ones that are able to maintain a real connection with their clients in their market. And those that can market really well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had Seth O'Byrne on, who's an icon when it comes to marketing his real estate, his properties in San Diego. You know, he really, really sticks out. That's his niche. But also on top of that, he understands that, you know, he has got to stay connected with those past clients. But the marketing is such a big piece. And with Sothebys International Realty, we have such a great opportunity to take that marketing to such a different level like nobody else can.
Exactly.
So I think that's one, those two areas, really strategically and effectively marketing your properties in a way that nobody else can is one. And then two, staying completely connected with your past clients and your sphere.
Yeah, and not everybody markets a house like Seth, but everybody there. You've got people that are just as, you know, Seth's really successful, but you've got people just as successful in other markets. Because what I hear you saying is, number one, you've got to be able to connect with people, and number two, figure out what you're really good at and nobody else is, and do it. For example, Seth is marketing. I love what Jack Cotton says. He says the one thing, he's like, some people do a better CMA, some people do a better, you know, some people negotiate better, some people do this better, but what I do better is know what's best for my clients. That's Jack Cotton's thing, Jack Cotton. And that really is back to what you said, which is the connection component. So I love that.
Well, and also identifying your niche and really focusing on that. I think you brought up a good point there.
Right. And it's an easy identifier is it's easy getting referrals if you can specifically say what you do. For example, I talk about selling houses in Buckhead and Brookhaven, and I'm really specifically well-versed in historic Brookhaven. And I love going to networking meetings where I introduce myself and then everybody else says, well, you don't have to have a house in historic Brookhaven to work with me. And they just literally re-promoted my position in real estate. And then people walk out the door because of the referrals they have for me. But if you kind of just, I'll sell anybody's house. Well, I don't want to go to a doctor who will work on anybody, you know, will work on any part of your body. I want one who specializes in hearts if I've got a heart issue, and vice versa, which we all know. So it's huge. What I'm looking at my questions here and deciding which one I want to ask you. What was a success you were most proud of as a real estate agent?
One success that I had, I think, is honestly back to what we talked about, just coming from the abyss, right, and doubling my business 4 times in 5 years after the recession, and how I did it. I did it in a way that was very much in line with my DNA. I was authentic about it, and to have that database full of clients that knew me, liked me, and trusted me. And surviving that period of time is probably what I'm most proud of, and I think that one period of time is what I'm most proud of.
So I love that, because that is going to bring us back to your course, but it's so interesting, and it's something is so useful to all of our listeners. Is you're going through that. I think about what you named it, which is take flight. And you gave me a great analogy that is and it's the light at the end of the tunnel for everybody who's, you know, not where they want to be in business, whether you're new or whether you're in business, but you're ready to take it to the next level of taking flight in business. And I want you to give me the analogy of why you named it Take Flight, because I thought it was a brilliant analogy that you gave me.
Right. Well, I was on my way to Grand Cayman in March of 2016, and I'm sitting on the plane, and I'm like, starting to just kind of correlate, you know, business and, you know, really honestly, I was trying to look for, you know, a new way to package this course. And I'm like, you know, business is like flight, right? Number one, you've got to pick where you want to go, which is your goals. What kind of business do I want? Mm-hmm. What kind of, what kind of intention do I want to have on my life and on my business? Where do I want to go with this? And everybody's goal is different. Not everybody's going to be a 50, 60, $100 million producer. And that's fine. But that's the trip that you take, right? That's the flight, is where am I going? And then when you do get on that plane and it takes off, you've got to realize that the majority of your time and effort is in that first 12 to 20 minutes of the flight. That's when the airplane uses the most fuel, because it's trying to get that plane off the ground. Mm-hmm. So people have to realize when they're getting into the business, it is hard work, right, Jerry? I mean, you don't just come in and cruise through it.
Exactly.
You've really got to put the effort in. But the goal is where Jeff Wilson is right now, is where you get to that 30,000 feet and you pull the engines back, and you've got that business that's really working for you. You got the referrals coming in, you got the past clients coming back, coming back to you, and your business is in flow, and that's the 30,000 feet that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can get to that point in your business, that's when you know you've kind of made it. But the point is that you got to understand is you can't get to 30,000 feet without going through takeoff and spending all that, energy and fuel to get to that point.
So I've got lots of questions.
So that's really where
I love that, because that just, even in, I don't want to sidetrack too much because I want to stay on your take flight, but we had that conversation and I was really working hard on this listing kind of at the same time we had that initial conversation about your course. And I thought it's the same thing when you list a house. You're taking flight. Like if your seller, I've started using that analogy, by the way, but I quote you, but it's the same thing in your real estate career as it is. It's like you're starting a little business when you list a house. You can just kind of throw a sign up and see how it goes. And whatever happens, it's not going to be the best result. Or you can come in, stage it right, price it right, get the appraisal, get the evaluation, take the time to educate your clients. Don't just tell them what they believe is true and put the sign up and hope it goes through. And what the end result is, you kind of actually like crash if you even get off the ground if you do a listing any other way. So it's just in everything. But I thought that was you gave me the idea to really emphasize that to my clients. So thank you. And on a totally different topic. Yeah.
It's a really good point, Jerry, that everything that you do comes with experience, right? The systems and processes. So many agents, part of what we teach in this class too is that you can't you don't want to reinvent the wheel every transaction because you put so much energy and effort into the same thing, and you reinvent the wheel and waste time. That's how people never really fully get off the ground. But if you have good systems and processes and good members on your team or whatever, however, depending on how big your volume is, but outside of the property, your systems should be fairly similar. And most agents never put the time into that part of their business where they can multiply. They put the time up front, but then over the life of their business, they save time over and over and over. So it's kind of that compounding of your upfront
effect.
Effort.
Yes. Which who is the author of that book, Compound Effect?
It's Darren Hardy. Yeah.
Yes.
So
is it Dan Hardy?
Darren Hardy.
Darren Hardy. Okay. Yeah, Joshua Smith that's actually Joshua Smith, one of our guests, business coaches.
Darren his coaches. So
yeah. Joshua is more of a transaction guy, but man, he's got the systems down. Like really got those down pat. So I'm going to explore the front end and the back end of this take flight. What are and if you want to sidetrack on my questions and answer them the way you want to, you go for it. But a question that comes to mind to me is on the front end, on that, getting that momentum. You see agents come in, it's like you said, they're like, okay, I'm here, I have my license, and what do I do? What are the three most important things that you would give someone, whether you're getting started to take flight in a brand new business or take flight in a new level of your business? What are those three things? What are three things, or if you've got something in your course you'd rather share that's answering the same question, what is that?
Yeah, and I'm going to answer this in two questions for those new agents listening to your interview today. I would say the best thing that you could do is identify who the agents are in your office that need help. What top agents in the office lack more than anything else is what we talked about before earlier, and that is time. I would go in and I would say, with no strings attached, what can I do to help you out? And in return, I just want to be in your world so I can learn the business. Because it's going to take a year of experience and learning in the business before you can really operate on your own. And I'm telling you, if you drop me into Charlotte, North Carolina tomorrow, even though I'm a veteran of the business, it's going to take me a year to learn that market, right? So I would say align, and this is what we do in my office, is we try to find mentors for every new agent so that they can learn and get out there and find out where their niche is and what they have to do. But for those agents that are not new and have been in the business for a while, my suggestion for you is use something that I learned from Barbara Corcoran on a I think she was on a podcast too.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the Shark Tank, and built the Corcoran Group in New York. But what she did is she told veteran agents, go back through the last 25 deals that you closed and go to the point of origination of where those deals came from, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not talking about referrals. Go all the way back to where you met the person that referred the person that referred the person that referred the person.
Yeah, okay.
And you will find probably 2 or 3 things that got your business off the ground. Do more of that.
Yeah.
So that's my
homework assignment tonight, to go back and do that and find out. I think I know. But to really, because sometimes you think you know, and then if you sit down and look at your transactions and okay, that's what it seems like, but where did it really come from? It's huge.
Well, in your business, Jerry, probably at this point, a lot, 80 to 90% of your business now is referral, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
pretty much all of it, right?
So, almost all of it. But go back, for that person that is maybe wanting to do, go all the way back to where that point of origination is. And it's really interesting. I got to tell you, 40% of my business came from, when I was really trying to build, it came from me being out in the market on Sundays and Saturdays in open houses.
Really?
40% of my business came from meeting people at open houses, or those that were referred to me by people that I met at open houses. I mean, my database was made up primarily of that, and a lot of it was sphere of influence as well. But so it's a really interesting exercise anybody can do. Yeah. And you can go back and identify.
And think about think about how many people. And I know there are some people that are really good. Mine did not come from open houses. Mine came from, I was in my mid-20s, and I didn't have a lot of means at the time. So mine came from meeting builders and asking builders what kind of land deals they were looking for and what they wanted, and going and literally just being one of the few agents that had the time and was willing to figure out how to find deals, and just went and found land deals. Of course, the recession killed me.
You were consistent, Jerry. You were consistent. You didn't get after a week when you didn't find a deal and you're like, this isn't working. So give up.
No, man. Right? I remember thinking, like, first of all, it's a land deal. How is this ever going to happen? But it did, because I just kept, probably the same thing in open houses. Open houses, I swear I do an open house, and I think I repel people. Like, I just, not to unsell myself. I can sell the heck out of a house, but as far as winning the client, maybe I do. I don't know, because if I reflect, it's not that bad. But in my mind, it was more on the end of, I was in an office that didn't have a lot of high-end listings, and I couldn't even tell you why, but I was going to make a lot of money, and I wanted to learn the business. But it's the same thing. It's like, it can come from anywhere. It can come from, and that's where, back to your training, is you have a lot of focus on self-reflection, figure out yourself, figure out what you're good at, be consistent, offer value. Like, whatever you do, like, everybody goes after builders, and they all want to know the pitch that you give a builder to get hired. Builders aren't looking for pitches, they're looking for value. And there's plenty of stuff they want that they don't have the time to get for themselves. Not to get on the builder talk, but it's just it's my history that's relating to yours. It's a great example. So that's awesome. And then on the other end of that, you take flight, you get up there, you're going, you've got your systems, you're Jeff Wilson looking at the world like, love this, got it, he has time to spend with his family. He's got 3, is it, Jeff's probably listening, I'm embarrassed. Is it 3 girls, 2 twins? I know. So anyway, what are the systems that what are some examples of some true systems that are in place and really working for your business that maybe somebody like Jeff or yourself has used, or agents in your office have used and have in place? Or Mackenzie, she's exceptional. She's a great example.
Well, and I think there's systems in all parts of your business. There's the before, the during, and the after of your business, right? Before is the, upfront
and this is
marketing,
module 4 of your course, just so you know.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
yeah,
go ahead. Right.
Yeah, and then the during is the part of the business where you're in the transaction, and you create such a level of you create a level of happiness from the client that they just can't stop talking about you. And a lot of that comes down to systems, and that's where McKinsey really excels in the listing presentation and that during the transaction process. She's really one of the best I've ever seen at that. And that gives her a lot of a lot of business off of the during.
And what makes what makes McKinsey the best though? What is it about McKinsey? Just for our listeners to really grasp it.
She has a start to finish process from the minute she meets the client through closing, post-closing. And what we worked with her on was really leverage that listing. So one transaction or one closing turns into three. So when you've got a property, she works in an area called Lohi in Denver. So her goal is to really be an expert or create that niche in that marketplace. So if she has a listing, she's going to get another buyer out of that listing or two, and maybe another listing based on how well she markets that property and her presence in that marketplace and her knowledge of the market. So that's a leverage item that everybody should really look at, is try to get 3 to 4, transactions or new pieces of business off of one new listing or one buyer that you're out there working with. So she's terrific with that. And then on the where most agents fail, honestly, is in the after part of their business, where they don't ever create a CRM or database process where they do relationship management over the life of that client. I look at, when I was selling, and I looked at the transaction, it started when my client closed, right? That's when the transaction started. My goal was to stay in touch with them over the long haul, so I can maximize, their future business and their referrals. So many agents one night stand their clients, and what I mean by that is they get their check or they get their commission and they're done. They're off to the next transaction. It's all in the relationships and the really follow-up and having a monthly calendar and over the long haul.
What would you say, and you've already elaborated on this a little bit with me before today, but so you can tell our listeners, what are the best, because it's like, okay, so follow-up program, keep in touch. Okay, so what do I call them every day? Like, which we know is not what you do. What are some examples of how do you appropriately and effectively follow up and keep in touch and continue to develop a relationship with, 100 clients you've had over the past few years?
Yeah. And I think the goal too, just for those that are trying to do relationship management, you want to stay at about 150 people or under. That's the size of a tribe that's kind of been proven as being the maximum size that one person can really effectively manage. Now, you're going to have your simple touch programs over a period of a year. The goal is to be between 30 and 35. And when I mean touch programs, that doesn't mean you're picking up the phone and calling them 35 times in a year.
Right.
But you have one of the examples that I think is working really well for our agents right now is what I call strategically gifting, using social media, especially Facebook, create a list of your clients. You can go in and Google how to create a friend list, but create a list for your clients and look for opportunities to strategically gift throughout the year, whether it be a birthday or, a change in something. They're engaged or they had a baby or they're big, you're down in the Southeastern Conference, right? So if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan and it's college football season, you got a top client, go buy them some Georgia swag, right? Like give them something that remind them of you, and they'll show everybody in their office, right? You can be very strategic about gifting.
Something that they
take
want.
That money that you're take that money you're spending on Zillow and put it in a strategic gifting.
Hey, just take somebody to lunch every once in a while, Yeah, I mean, not that we don't do that, but just taking somebody to lunch isn't that expensive. And just the referrals. I take clients to lunch, or even, they're not even clients, they're just people who respect me and you kind of create a fan base in this business after a while where you've got your people looking out for you. You take them to lunch and they'll remember 5 referrals they want to give you because you had a minute to have lunch with them and bond and just take them and see how they're doing. So just as another example of exactly what you're talking about. It's great.
That's so key. And yeah, so I would suggest that's something that you can do right away, but have a back-end system for relationship management for sure.
So on relationship management, and this will help finish this question because I'm dying to know, CRM, client relation management system, do you have a favorite?
I do. One that we've been using, I've been training to a lot, and I like it because it provides what we need, and it's really pretty cost effective. It's a platform called Contactually. Contactually.com. It does is you can bucket or categorize your clients and then create follow-up timeframes for each person in that bucket. And on your dashboard every morning will give you the names of the people that are meeting that algorithm for that day. And if you just literally go to that dashboard every day and make some kind of a contact with those clients, again, pinging them on Facebook, handwritten note, birthday card, whatever it might be, just review those clients at least every 30, 45 days.
And not necessarily clients, but contacts, right? Damian Ross actually, go ahead. Damian Ross is an agent in our Long Island office, and he's doing, I want to say it's like 55 transactions without an assistant, something ridiculous, which I think he just finally hired an assistant. I mean, tremendous volume. And you're the second person that's mentioned Contactually. He really likes it. So I'm looking for a good CRM. A lot of these big agents are using Google Docs. So I'm using Google Docs, but I kind of want a real one. So Contactually sounds like a great one to try out.
They got a free trial. Give it a shot. And I can talk to you offline about it. It's one that we've found to be pretty effective. And it's like anything else. You got to use it. You got to be consistent but it will provide what you need, and that is putting people in front of you every day. Like you said, contacts, past clients, industry, referral sources that you got to stay in touch with. So it's just a matter of being consistent with that back piece of your business because that's where the money's at. It really is where the volume and your transactions are going to come from.
That compound effect again coming back into play. So, what is your favorite real estate tool, just in general, besides the cell phone?
What's my favorite real estate tool?
It may be Contactually. That would be a great tool. Or is there an app like?
I was going to probably tell. I think if I was to get started, brand new in the business, you have to start at some point with a CRM database, and you might as well start in the very beginning because the line between a real estate hobby and a real estate business is whether or not you have a database or not. And I would start very early with that. So Contactually would be my tool. The second one would be my iTunes and my audiobooks, and I listen to my books instead of reading. I'm not someone that can really sit down and read a book fully for an hour. I love to have it in the car, and I love to listen to a book or a podcast or your podcast, Jerry.
Thank you. Yeah.
But listen to it instead of reading it. So I'd have to say iTunes and an iTouch type situation where I can keep those books and the podcast away from my phone. I don't turn my phone on until about 6:30 in the morning. So I have all that me time in the morning, and that's why I have a separate device for iTunes.
That's really smart. So on books, what is the one book that you would recommend if you had to narrow it down to one?
Well, I think that we've already mentioned one, and that was The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. That's kind of required reading as part of the Take Flight course. I also love, if you don't mind me throwing out two more, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. I think everybody's got to read that at some point if you're going to be an entrepreneur very early in the game. Success leaves clues. People have done this for a long time. Learn from those that have already been there. and then Gary Keller's The One Thing. Focus on what you do well. Those three, if you read those three over a period of 2 or 3 months, you will have a different outlook on how you want to attack things.
So those three are Think and Grow Rich, The Compound Effect, and The One Thing by Gary Keller.
Correct.
Awesome. So how do we go from 1 to 3? Let's do it. Give us 3 more, because they're probably all part of the Take Flight course too. So we don't want to miss out on them.
You want 3 more?
Let's do it. 3 more.
Or okay. Anthony Iannarino's The Best Sales Guide Ever. Let me grab it here real quick.
Oh, awesome.
The only sales guide, I'm sorry, that you'll ever need. That's a great one if you want hardcore, like sales advice on how to really, navigate the sales process.
Okay.
That one is really good.
Now, what do you mean by that? Like systems or mindset or? It
starts with all of that. Just
okay.
The strategies of a true salesperson, all the way from your thinking all the way through closing skills, etc.
Okay.
That's another terrific book. I like Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss.
Yes.
That I just purchased. If you're into rituals and things like that. You're going to go to the sections in that book that are meaningful to you at that time. It reads like a textbook. So you're not going to sit down and like read that book. You're going to, if you have a problem that you need to solve, you're going to go to that section of his book. And I think
so that's actually one you would buy and not listen to. Like
that would be one that you would buy,
okay.
Jerry, for sure. You would have that on hand as kind of a textbook resource. Those are 5 really good ones that if you could get started, there's many more, but
okay.
Off the top of my head, those 5.
That's great. Well, we went from 1 to 5, so 5 really good ones. And most of those, except the only sales guide you'll ever need. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, so, and he's got a good podcast and stuff too that is highly recommended. So,
all right, so
you can with those 5.
I want to ask you, you've kind of been answering it or hinting at it, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to you to fully answer. If you were starting all over, had nothing at all, like let's say you had nothing, you had no market knowledge, like let's just land you in another city to help you get some perspective, no connections, no contacts, you'd never been an agent. And this is a good question for new agents and agents taking it to the next level, because it just puts into perspective what really counts. What would you do to ensure your success? All you've got is food, a phone, and shelter, and $200. What are you going to do to ensure?
Jerry, if you were to drop me in Atlanta, I would find you and I would say I will work for you for free, and I would learn the business from someone that really knows how to do it, and I would offer my time and for no strings attached. Really, honestly, I would go in and I would say, I don't think anybody should get into the business without knowing they've got about a year, 6 months to a year, right? That they can learn the business, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I would go down and take things off of your plate that you don't need to do, and I would start there and make your life easier. And probably what you would do in turn is you would find some opportunities for me because I'm giving so much to you.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
So there's going to be buyers that you don't want to necessarily, you don't have the time to work with, or you're not, it's not a niche that you are spending a lot of time in. So I would take those opportunities and make your life easier. Honestly, that's what I would do.
That's brilliant. I love your answer. That's a good answer. Thank you.
Well, because what you need is time, right, Jerry?
Exactly.
You need more time. I could take some stuff off your plate. That's a win for me. It's a win for you. And so that's what I would do if I was a new agent.
You're exactly right. And why don't more agents do that? Which that's a whole nother topic, and I could answer that question, and I bet you could too. Or do you want to answer it?
Why? Well, that's kind of the culture of how our company's been built. When we bring in new agents, I'm doing a lot of what I do now as a managing broker and as our executive vice president is I'm doing a lot of matchmaking. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, who needs help? Who's
a good
have
fit?
A few more resources? I'm trying to create fits within my company that work for everybody, and it's worked beautifully. So if we have broker owners or managers out there, that is give me a call and I can tell you how we've done it within our firm. And it's really been highly effective for our new agents, and has helped out our producing agents that need time.
Yeah, and I think it's getting the right agents together. So on that, what our final question, which I love, because we kind of hit on a lot of things in this, but the one thing you would want our listeners to take from this interview, if there's one thing that somebody's going to take from this, what would you have that be?
Well, I would say if you do not have a relationship management process on the after portion of your business, work on that now, because your future business and your future transactions are all in your past clients, and that's where you're really going to grow your business. I've seen agents that have not put any time and effort into that piece, and by just making simple changes, in 2 or 3 months, they're seeing their business double in their first full year with us after they've made those changes to their business, because they'll find that after they reconnect with all those clients, and they get back and they really work that part of their business, they see their business double. And it's really the business the clients that you want to work with. Those referrals are already coming to you sold. So, it's just a much more enjoyable business to work with people that than to go out and try to find somebody on a front-end lead source generation situation.
Exactly.
So focus on that.
Awesome. Get a CRM and implement it. Huge.
Exactly.
You make me think of Damian Ross. We'll definitely ping him on this, because he was doing that 50-something transactions a year without a CRM or an assistant. I don't know how I don't know how he did it, but he got a CRM as soon as he heard everybody else talk about one.
Yeah. That's what we call unconscious competence. Somebody who's just really, really super talented. But for the most of the people, like for myself, I couldn't do that. I need that.
I don't think many people
technology.
Can. Exactly.
Right.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Before we go, is there anything else you want to add to this interview that we haven't covered that we should? There's so much. Maybe that's a dangerous question.
No, I would just say that, I would say for those that are listening to this interview today, really focus on your self-development. Jerry, you are providing an unbelievable platform for agents to really learn the business at a different level that, 10 years ago, we didn't have podcasts, we didn't have all of this, but, I would make, your program or your podcast and I'm just so you know, internally within my coaching group, I'm kind of making it a must-read type scenario, but you are providing a lot to the marketplace. And I would say if people jump on this once a week for the inspiration, understand how the giants in the business are doing it. Everything's been done before. Don't replicate. Just do what other people have done. Focus on that. There's no silver bullet in brokerage. It all comes down to taking care of your clients, providing value, and making sure that after the fact they know that you love them and that you're there to take care of them after the sale. If you do that long term, your business will have a nice trajectory long term.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that's a good note to end on. Well said. Thanks so much. It's been great. It's been an honor to have you, Jim. I appreciate it.